Want to be a better leader? Start with your finances. This week on We've All Done It, I'm joined by Jenevieve Lenz to talk about why true leadership means being confident, not just at work, but with your money too. We break down how having a real financial plan takes stress off your plate, helps you make fearless decisions, and sets you up for success, no matter what life throws at you. Tune in for practical tips to lead, live, and budget with confidence. Welcome to We've All Done It, the podcast for leaders who know they've screwed up and are ready to fix it fast. I'm Kimberly Benoit, author, speaker, leadership coach, and Southern girl living outside of Washington, D.C. Here's what I believe. Every leader faces challenges and makes mistakes, but you don't need years of therapy-style coaching to fix them. You need someone to help you figure out what's actually going wrong, make smart adjustments, and get back on track quickly. That's exactly what I do through one-on-one coaching, targeted skill development, and group programs. Every episode of this podcast delivers real talk about common leadership pitfalls, practical strategies for recovery, and no BS guidance to improve how you lead yourself and others every single day. Whether you're here to listen and learn, or ready to work together and make real changes, you are in the right place. Now let's get to today's episode. Welcome back, everybody. I am really thrilled today because we have a guest, a type of guest that we've actually never had on the show before, which is probably going to surprise people because we've been doing this 3 years now, and I feel like people think I've had everybody you can imagine on the show, but 2026, we're shaking it up. So today I have the amazing Jenevieve Lenz, who is the owner and lead educational advisors for Lenz for Women. And so she has a passion, listen to this out there because I think this is really important, for providing education, financial education and literacy for professional women and small business owners. Because I don't know about you, but when you start talking about finances and budgeting and investments, that can scare quite a few people. I used to be one of them. I'm not anymore, but I used to be that person, which is why I am so excited to have our guest today. Welcome to the show, Jenevieve.
Thank you, Kimberly. I'm so glad to be here. And I just, like I said before, I love your energy. So I know when we first talked, we clicked right away. And it was like, this is going to be amazing. You led the 2026 is going to be a banner year. And I feel that with you. I feel that energy when I'm talking to clients or conversationally with NABO members, which is National Association of Women Business Owners. So there is this energy like, ooh, finally COVID's behind us and we can look forward with a little more clarity into the new year.
So we're going to start at the very beginning because I feel like I feel like there's like a million commercials being pushed out at me, and they usually have like men in them. No offense to the men, we love you guys, seriously. But like when you talk about finance, particularly, there's stereotypes around it, right? And there's lots of language that seems similar but different, and it can feel very confusing as to what each element of that is. So can you provide, let's just start from the very beginning. What are all the different kinds of financial support or advisors, and where do you fit in?
Ooh, that's a really good question. We could probably do a whole podcast just on that alone. But I'll try to keep it brief. So I used to work for Merrill Lynch, and Merrill Lynch is known as a broker, right? That's a wirehouse broker. I also used to work for Charles Schwab. And if you've been around a while and you're professional, you have your money somewhere, right? Could be Fidelity, could be Morgan Stanley, could be any number of places. Those are considered brokers or wirehouses, and they hire and train advisors to do what we all know that we need to have done, which is take your money, put it in some bucket, invest it somewhere, and then it'll grow, right? And so there's a very big shift that's happened, especially since COVID, where those things are still working for people, but the world has become more dynamic. There's a lot more job changes. The government, laid off a bunch of people. AI is here, so there's a lot more change in our world now than say maybe 10, 20 years ago with just walking down to your neighborhood, Fidelity or Schwab's shop would help you with your financial plan. So I fit into the world where I've been there, right? Been there, done that. I've been an advisor for 20 years. And I see the things that have happened that are good at those locations and not so great for clients when it comes to an overall plan. So when you're looking at all the noise out there, like you mentioned, right, all the articles and emails and so forth, you really want to ask yourself two questions. Is the person just a financial investment person? Are they going to try to tell me where my money should go, right? Which a lot of them are. Or is this person a financial planner? There's something out there called a CFP designation. I have part of that designation, but then I morphed into actually managing a couple offices for Mercer Advisors as a vice president wealth manager. So I didn't quite finish the exam, but I function very much like a CFP. And that's really important for people to say, do I need a plan? Do I just want somebody to tell me where my money goes? Or do I want to walk with an advisor, someone that's going to come alongside me and say, hey, let's look at the big picture. Let's look at your cash flow. Let's look at not only your investments, but what does your real estate look like? Are you owning just a home? Do you want to own more real estate? What does your health insurance look like? Do you have a will? Do you have a trust? How about your taxes, right? Can I talk to your CPA or your whoever's doing your taxes? Could be any accountant. And can we work together to get more efficiency from a tax perspective? So there's so much more when you talk to a planner than you just talk to one of the people that's an investment person. And that's the biggest change that I would say to all your listeners. Look at who's out there and talk to the planners, at least talk to 2 or 3 people to get a feel for, hey, is this person interested in just selling me a product or an investment? Or do they genuinely want to come alongside me and help me create my own path?
And so my guess is for you, you are, and what I know about you is that you like to work with people in kind of that holistic approach, right? So it's not just, hey, go put your money in this bucket. Hey, go take this 401k and bucket it over here versus like, let's talk about your whole financial life, basically.
Right. So I'll give you a little story. I think everybody likes stories when they're listening to podcasts. At least I do. I have a couple of my favorite podcasts. So the story kind of goes like this. My father is a 3rd generation business owner and I'm a 4th, right? And when his father was passing away, there were some things that were just unraveling. And I was young. I was in my 20s. I didn't really know what was going on, but I just knew that this wasn't normal, right? Where somebody could put a trust together and it's unwinded and it's not protecting him in his elderly years. We had a nurse that was stealing from him and got a new roof put on her house because she stole the checkbook. We had, I'm not going to name any names of the financial house, but people were selling good quality investments that were paying 6.25%, 6.5% bond investments and replacing them with proprietary mutual fund-like things. And when I finally got wind of what was happening, it was too late. He had passed on, but it left a terrible mess for my aunt and my father to clean up. And I remember watching my dad get his 1/3 of the money and thinking, okay, if I don't do something, this is going to happen to my father. Mm-hmm. The same thing's going to happen because he's very kind, very hardworking. He's in his business, right? He's a leader. He's volunteering. He's on these boards. He's not going to stop to pay attention as to what the financial or the attorney or the accountant is supposed to be doing. So I stopped working that particular job. I went to Merrill Lynch. I found the first person that would hire me as a junior. And I said, here's my dad's statement. Help me make this better. We gave my father a call. Long story short, my father became my first client. That was over 18 years ago. And we never looked back. And the man retired successfully, sold his business. I created 5 sources of income for him. He had rentals. He had everything set up the way he should have because I jumped in early and said, okay, I'm going to do this for my father. So fast forward, right, to your point, I was looking at his entire financial house, right, the entire financial picture, which has about 20 plus rooms in it, if I can use that terminology.
Yeah.
And the bottom of it is cash flow. What's coming in? What are you earning and where are you putting it? Is you would build a physical house, like my father built a physical business with some of our relatives with his bare hands, right? I saw the foundation. If there was a crack in the foundation, they had to go back and fix it, right? So the foundation in finance is your cash flow. Where are you putting it? Where are you investing? How much are you saving? How much is in your emergency bucket? What do you put aside for vacation or college or weddings or all those big events, right? And just as important as the foundation is the roof. And when my dad was running a business, there was a lot of roofing that had to happen, right? Like, how do we protect from lawsuit? There was lawsuits. He got sued by people slipping and falling in the parking lot. We had to have protection for that. You know, how do we protect from early death or disability or, anything else that could go wrong in a business owner's life? So there was a lot of meetings, a lot of back and forth, but the roof on your financial house has to be there. And of course, the rooms in it. Well, that's the easy part. That's where are you investing, right? What does your IRA look like? Your 401k, if you're with the government, it's TSP, or maybe you're with a nonprofit, whatever your financial life looks like, you're going to want to put your money somewhere. But then the question becomes, well, where and how tax efficient, right? And how can we get it paying less tax, right? With using different vehicles, Roth IRAs, Roth conversion. So I can go on and on. But the bottom line is you need to be in charge of your financial house. No one's going to do it for you, right? So you got to find somebody that's going to look at all those things and say, let's plan the house, right? Let's plan the financial house the way you want it, customize it for you, not do it like what the industry's been telling people.
Hey, quick announcement. I'm hosting a 3-day virtual leadership summit called Navigating Uncertainty from January 25th through 27th in 2026. 21 expert speakers are going to cover strategic leadership, team building, operational excellence, and leading through change. Best part? It's completely free if you watch live. However, if you want lifetime access to the replays and extra speaker resources, grab the All Access Pass for just $97. Head to the website in the show notes and register now. Trust me, you don't want to miss this.
I really like that. It's so funny because I'm like, thinking about leadership. Like I think about how many people I know who as leaders are so great at what they do, in part because they are great with their budgeting, like corporate budgets, managing budgets, project managing, program managing, like showing up and doing such an extensive job at their place of employment. And then, but yet when they go into their personal space, it seems so intimidating, so overwhelming, or maybe they just burn themselves out at the office that they don't have the energy for doing it on their own. It is, so I guess I'm a little curious, like, where did your passion come from? Like, is that part of it? Like why you focus in, particularly for women leaders, as well as small business owners? Like, how did you decide that that was a niche for you? Is it kind of that? Because I know, like, at the end of the day, sometimes I'm tired of I don't want to go do my own stuff. I just did my business all day. Is that part of it? Or was there another impetus that kind of pushed you in that direction?
Well, when you've been in the industry for 20 years as a financial advisor, you see a lot of mistakes that people are making, right? So that first mistake that I mentioned to you was what happened with my grandfather, and my father was doomed to potentially follow the same path without early intervention. So, back at my days at Schwab, I can tell you many stories about people that were leaving a corporate job, right? Leaving a high paying, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 job that they did really good at and saying, I'm going to go out on my own, right? I'm going to be a leader at a smaller startup, or I'm going to be a leader and run my own shop. And a lot of the things that I didn't know then, I learned with my clients along the way. And one of them is make sure you've got your own benefits, your own house set up before you jump ship, right? And so with this particular client, I didn't ask him if his benefits were portable. At that time, we were mostly about, okay, if this business doesn't take off, do I have the cash flow to support it, right? We were looking at taxable, non-taxable buckets of cash and savings and emergency. But about 2.5 years into, well, a little less than that, maybe more like 18 months to 2 years, he had a stroke when he was actually biking, and he was very fit, 57 years old. And that stopped his business dead in its tracks. He couldn't barely walk or talk, let alone drive a car or function in a business. And I never asked him, hey, is your disability from X IT company? Is it porting over to you? And indeed it did for the first 18 months, but then it lapsed. So he had nothing. He had no disability coverage to cover his $450,000 salary. And I felt terrible because it was a question that was easily avoidable. But at the time, sitting at Schwab, all we talked about was investments. We didn't talk about the what ifs. So that and many, many, many other stories along the way became my impetus for, if I'm not asking those questions, something as simple as, okay, we're planning your retirement, and this is great. Do you think you might be responsible for any children or aging adults as well as your retirement in the future, right? That really begs to ask the question, is the cash flow just going to be for you, or are you going to have to support some other people, right? And do those other people have a source of cash flow so that they're not draining what you believe is your money for your future. So there's a lot of questions that we can unpack, and we don't have the time for that today. But the passion comes from wanting to treat every woman that I'm working with and the education that I provide through Lens for Women to make sure that even if I got hit by the proverbial bus, right, that they have the resources and all the education necessary to ask smart questions, to work with their advisors differently going forward that they may have in the past, right? Making sure that their ducks are not only in a row, but they've taken care of those what ifs that can come up and bite us. And COVID was a big one, right? We never saw a worldwide pandemic coming. Many of us don't see job loss coming. We certainly didn't see this craziness going on with the government. So you've got to plan for the what ifs. You've got to have an emergency bucket, and you got to have an idea on how to pivot so that your financial plan works even when the world seems like it's falling apart.
You know, I appreciate that answer tremendously, because I didn't actually start really becoming financially literate until I got divorced. And it was in that moment where I had to start figuring things out, right? And so I was like, because I was it's not a thing. I was 40, and I was like, I am 40. This is the money I now have.
Yeah.
Huh. Wow. Maybe I should think about this different. And the truth is I've always been good about budgets and that kind of stuff. I've never been like an overspender, but in regards to thinking about the other stuff, like what you talk about, like, what do you want for later in life? Like, what do I want for myself in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? Like, I have to start planning now for those things, and I have to make good decisions now to set me up for those things. And candidly, had I not done that work, I actually probably would have never left corporate, because I put you know what I mean? Like, so what you're saying is completely true. And I just want to plug that your story means a lot, because when people come to me always and say that they want to quit their corporate job and go and like create their own business, the first thing I always ask them is, what are you doing for benefits? What's your plan for benefits? Like, it sounds super sexy to quit and go do your own job.
Yeah.
But what about benefits?
Yeah.
And then it's always a deer in headlights, because again, kind of what you're talking about, like, it's so easy not to ask certain questions because there's certain things we just kind of take for granted. Like, that's why I think 401k can be great, but I also think it gives us the ability or the illusion, like, we just kind of check out of it, right? Because it just comes out of our check. It goes somewhere. We don't have to think about it. When we retire, the idea is money will just be there. And I almost think it makes us so passive in our own assets. And I think that's almost a mistake, because there's no guarantee it's going to be there. Like, you still have to make good choices, even if that money's coming out of your check every month.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it is passive, right? You click some boxes when you start the job and the money just disappears into those accounts. And how many people actually sit back and review it every year? You know, that's one of the things that a good advisor should do. Like, what is your 401k doing? Have you looked at the investments lately? Did you possibly consider reallocating it? Which is the other reason why it's so important to move it, right? Get it out of the 401k when you do leave the job, because you have access to every single investment at that point, right? Every IRA or SEP IRA, there's endless possibilities, not just the 15 or 20 options that your 401k gave you. And think about it, right? If you can get with the right advisor that's going to not charge you advisor fees on top of mutual fund fees, and all of a sudden you're paying 2.5% or more, there's ways to do it that it's going to pay you 1% or less. So what happens to that 1 to 1.5% differential? That's money that you get to put back in your pocket, right? That's what it's all about, is how do we put more money in your pocket and save you from the fees that you don't possibly even know that you're paying in a lot of these things. And believe me, a lot of people don't think their 401k is charging them anything. It is. They just don't see it. Yeah.
Well, and again, it's such fine print. So, like, I used to giggle at the package of the booklets that you would get about like your options. And the truth is it's in a language, unless you do a lot of work and really sit, it's a language that the average person really doesn't understand. And so I guess the question I want to ask is this, because I think this is an important. So what advice do you have for someone who is listening, who is doing the standard thing? Like, there maybe you're doing some budgeting of the household income. Like, we know kind of what's coming in, we know what's kind of going out. 401ks are there. And they might be interested in trying to do more, but they're intimidated by the fact. Like how do you vet that this person's a good person? Because it feels like I said, the ads are there. So like for someone who might be interested, what advice do you have for them to make sure that they don't feel like they're being taken advantage of, or that they're picking the right person for them?
That's an excellent question. And it becomes a little bit difficult to figure it out. Like I said earlier, you're going to have to at least interview a couple of people, but the big two are asking the question, is the person a fiduciary, right? So if they're a fiduciary, that means they have passed a number of exams, right? Whether it's investments, whether it's insurance, but they're holding themselves out there as putting your needs above their own, right? And we have to do CE training every year as advisors, and we have to have at least 6 credits of ethics every single year. And I laugh when I have to go through the training because I'm thinking this is so basic, but yet you would think that everybody would be following the ethical rules. But if they're not a fiduciary, they're not following the same rules as maybe I'm following, or other people that are fiduciaries. They are going to sell you a product or a widget or a basket of mutual funds or something because it's going to pay them to sell you that thing, if that makes sense, right, Kimberly? Mm-hmm. So a true fiduciary is going to be agnostic. Let me stress that again. A true fiduciary is going to be agnostic as to what the investment is, because the investment isn't just picked off the shelf. The investment just didn't come after meeting with them 2 or 3 times. The investment is designed based on your plan. So it's re-engineering it. It's do the plan first. Have a plan as to how much your 401k needs to grow. Where is it going? Where are your other funds going? How much is an emergency bucket? How much is outside the 401k? And just investment bucket can still be used for retirement, but it has flexibility, right? It can be used before retirement. And a fiduciary is going to help you figure out all those pieces and not really care what the underlying investment is. Is it an ETF, exchange traded fund? Is it actually mutual funds? Should you be now investing in individual stocks because the dividends are going to be growing in that account? And then voila, like my father, it was really nice to look at him one day and say, Dad, it's time to start taking the dividends out of that stock account that we've been growing all these years. And what was really nice about it is that we had little segments of money flowing into his checking account, and he had $1,200 a month coming in just dividends while the stock was still growing. Imagine that. So the account was going up, but he was actually taking a drawdown on it. And he had several different types of accounts that were doing the same thing. He thought he hit the jackpot. He's like, I can't believe. I said, because we were deliberately setting it up all these years to create dividends, to create income. You weren't taking it. So what happens when it goes into the account? It helps the account go quicker, better, faster, whatever you want to say. But the money is going to be in there when you want to take it out, when you hit that magic age. And for some other people, it's 55. I want to be done, right? I want out of corporate. Or others, it's 60 or 62. And others that are business owners, it might be 70 or 75. I've got clients of all ages. But the bottom line is they know when the market goes up and down. And in 2008, when everybody saw the crash, or when COVID hit in March of 2020 and the market crashed again, they weren't panicking because they knew based on their plan that they were okay.
Yeah.
So if you have a good plan, it's like clarity and confidence, and it helps you sleep so much better. I can't even stress that enough, right? We all want to sleep well at night. So does that answer your question, Kimberly?
It does. And I was just thinking, I think that, for those who are listening are like, how does this tie to leadership? I think for that reason, like when you have your personal house in order and you have confidence in the plan, the financial plan you have, if a layoff comes or a reduction of force comes, or if you decide, hey, I need a pivot, you have now like a plan in place financially that should hopefully help make those choices or those shifts a little bit less scary, right? Because you're not going to be worried. Hopefully you're not going to be worried about like paying your mortgage or putting food on the table, because you've now made a plan that the money will be there for you. You know what I mean? Like, because I think that when you think about like showing up for work, what's one thing you can take off your plate? Because like the first thing people I know when reduction in forces happen is how quickly can I get another job, especially if you're the breadwinner for your family.
For sure.
Right. So I'm seeing this as doing this work now. And again, like we had a lot of reductions in force last year, but and there's possibly going to be more this year, is if you could take one worry, a financial worry, off your plate and say, okay, I can have a plan that if I know this is what we're going to do. This is the levers we're going to pull if something catastrophic happens. That's got to help you show up every day a little bit less stressed, maybe, than the alternative of well, we're just going to have to piecemeal it and, react. So instead of being proactive about it, you're having to be reactive about it.
Yeah, planning for those what ifs. I mean, gosh, I can't think of anything more important, right? So that when yet layoff comes, you mentioned the government, having, especially in leadership, because you don't know if you're going to get the next rung of leadership, if you're going to be downsized, outsized. Once again, going back to a couple stories, there were 3 people in the last 2 years that pivoted away from their corporate America job. And some of them, it was because it was becoming too arduous, right? The money was fabulous, but they didn't want to do the travel anymore. They didn't like the way the company was being run or the boss or whatever the reason is. And they knew they wanted to pivot out, right? And in all 3 of those cases, we had several meetings. We put a plan in place. We stockpiled some extra cash. If they got bonuses, the bonus was stockpiled away. So, it was 18 months to 2 years of at least, hey, how is this going to work? When should I pull the trigger?
Yeah.
Can I cover my mortgage and all the basic fixed expenses for at least the first year? Because maybe my pivot is not going to go as smoothly as I like, right? So you want to have your basic fixed expenses covered for at least 12 to 18 months. So therefore, that emergency cash bucket, which we say, have 6 months of emergency cash. If you're thinking of leaving a job, or you think that you might have a layoff, or imminently the company's going in a direction that you might lose your position, you want to start planning at least 18 months in advance, right? And those types of things that we talked about earlier, it's really crucial to giving you that sense of peace of mind. This is going to work. I don't have to wake up and panic because I don't have income, because I set it aside. I planned ahead. So
this has been such an amazing conversation, and I really value just your passion about doing this work and your ability to talk about it in a very, what I would say is a very easy to understand way as well. Because like every industry, finance has its own lingo. It has its own jargon, which I do think is part of the intimidation factor, right? And it's for anybody who's stepping in, that you feel like you have to go learn a lot. But what I love is that your plan is not about coming in and making someone else feel small for not understanding the world, but you're showing up to be a partner. You're showing up to be a part of helping them have a plan that works for them. So I just want to ask, is there anything else that you would want people to know? Any other important tidbit knowledge you want to share before we close our conversation today?
yeah, you want to think a little bit more at any stage of your career, right, about practicing income-based budgeting. And there's something called lifestyle creep. I don't know if you've ever heard that word.
Yeah.
But as your income goes up, your lifestyle expands, right? You take more expensive vacations, you add a more expensive gym membership or the country club and so forth. So the things that you need to have in mind is, as that happens, women who lack a financial plan when that's happening also miss out on major savings opportunities. They also miss out on smart places to put their money where tax advantages, because the more money you make, the more things you have, the more Uncle Sam is standing there with their hand out, right, to take some of it. So you want to be controlling your expenses and planning and saving in a way that you're going to potentially pay less tax, right? Which maybe means working with a different accountant or working with a different bookkeeper. And as your income increases, your budget adapts and grows with it. And then you're surrounded with smart people that are not only helping you figure out where the smart places to put this, right? And it could be a tax advantage vehicle, it could be real estate or rentals, but whatever it is, it's based on your needs, your wants, your desire to retire, and you've got the right professionals that are alongside you. So I don't do all the things I do by myself. I refer and connect with top individuals that are complementary to me to make sure my clients have those resources as well. So if nothing else, people don't have to work with me, but they certainly would like to tap into the resources that I provide. And that's why I wanted to share that with you today, because it's all about who do you know, who can help you. And sometimes they're not right for me, but I know they need a new accountant. That's for sure, right? They're losing money in their tax methods, or they need an attorney to help protect some of their assets, and they really have nothing. A lot of doctors came to me during the pandemic and said, Jenevieve, I can't die. My kids won't have anything. I don't have a will. I don't have a trust. And so we fixed those things, right? We got them the financial planning that was outside of my scope that was complementary. So that's an add-on to what you just asked me to. There's no time like the present, right? We don't think there's going to be another worldwide pandemic. We don't know what's happening with the government, but we do know that financial planning is always going to be key in all of the leaders' future, right? It has to be. So
yeah. Well, thank you for coming on. I know you do a lot of workshops. So if somebody wants to, connect with you and learn more about what you do and maybe the workshops you have coming up, where would be the best place for them to find you?
Find me on the website. There's a little section on there that says upcoming events. And any upcoming event, you're welcome to join me. Some are complimentary, some are for a fee. If you're really, really interested in joining something, just email me, right? You can find there's several places on the website that say contact me.
Yeah.
Book a complimentary consult, right? I really would like to get to know you to figure out if there's resources that I can refer you to. And you'll also make sure you get on the once a month newsletter. And in the newsletter, they always talk about the events and the things that I'm hosting.
Well, and I am just going to shamelessly plug, you are going to be a speaker at an upcoming summit. So she is going to be at the May Summit. I'm very excited. So going to be talking about financial literacy as part of your people strategy. So because this is not, again, this is something we push and we say things that this is an individual responsibility. But again, if you're an employer and you're offering 401k, are there ways that you can actually make that more meaningful for your people? So I'm so excited that you're going to come and share more wisdom with folks. And I just, again, thank you so very much for your time, for your sharing your expertise and your stories. And I'm really looking forward to continued conversations and working together.
Thank you, Kimberly. It's been a joy being here today. Thank you for your listeners to join us. And I just look forward to May as well. It's going to be very exciting. So we'll hear more about it, I'm sure, in the months ahead.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thanks again.
I've got two things before I let you go. One, if you've ever gotten any value from the show, please leave a 5-star review. It really helps and absolutely makes my day. The second thing is if you have any thoughts you'd like to share with me, please shoot me an email at podcast@KimberlyJBenoit.com. I'd love to hear from you. All right, see you in the next episode.